Hey everybody, it's Jeff from New York again, and today we're going to visit the West Village. It's a tiny neighborhood tucked in between Greenwich Village and the Hudson River, and it's one of the quietest, most sophisticated pockets of downtown Manhattan. Primarily residential with a distinct lack of office buildings, the leafy, off-the-grid streets are peaceful during the day but get livelier at night. That's when the well-heeled residents and fashionistas can all be found mingling over oysters at the many area low-lit cocktail bars. The West Village is one of the few Manhattan neighborhoods that completely defies the grid street system. The blocks are incredibly curvy and difficult to navigate. From the cobblestone streets in the morning to the Hudson River Greenway at sunset, beautiful scenery surrounds this neighborhood. All of this is great, but it don't come cheap. The West Village is known to have some of the highest per square foot real estate prices in Manhattan. So come on, put something trendy on and let's walk around these winding tree-lined streets. Here we have a fountain in Hudson River Park, which runs along the western border of the West Village along the Hudson River. And you can also see One World Trade Center, which is also known as Freedom Tower, from the park as well. I just happened to be in Hudson River Park in the West Village on a day where the New York Fire Department's boat 343 was going up the Hudson. This fireboat was placed into service on 9/11/2010, 9 years to the day after the terrorist attacks. Fireboats provided critical water to downtown for days after the attacks, and the New York Fire Department didn't overlook any details when designing 343, this boat. The boat is the largest and most powerful fireboat in the world. Its 11 gigantic water cannons can blast 50,000 gallons of water per minute, nearly 30,000 gallons more than its predecessor. The boat has an operating crew of 7 and was designed with terrorist attacks in mind. While city officials are always tight-lipped when it comes to terrorism planning, there's no hiding the fact that 343 has a speedboat attached to its stern, and it's been revealed that it also has a decontamination chamber. No doubt the New York Fire Department, New Yorkers, and every American can be proud of this boat. And as far as the boat's namesake, 343, it was named after the number of brave New York Fire Department firefighters killed in the line of duty on September 11th. This is one of those being in the right place at the right time moments. I'm glad I got to see 343. Not too many people do, and I'm glad I got to share it with you guys. This is the Downtown United Soccer Club. Several games going on at once this Sunday that I visited. I would think it's pretty distracting when games are being played so close together. The players are here regularly, and they must be used to the distractions. I walked along the sidelines during the games, and artificial turf has come a long way since I was a kid. I knew it was fake, but it felt so real. Hudson River Park. Is it art, or is it a park bench? It's both. There are probably more street cafes in the West Village than any other neighborhood in Manhattan. These cafes are everywhere you turn, and on a beautiful day, they're great for a light meal and people watching. If you don't like what you see on the chalkboard, just walk a couple more feet and there'll be another cafe, hopefully with something that you'll enjoy. Lots of Manhattan neighborhoods have street cafes, but they just don't seem to get it. They don't offer good service and good food. The West Village has it down to a science. You'll find something good anywhere you go. And here we have the Tony D'Appolito Recreation Center. This is a city-run rec center loaded with amenities such as indoor pool, outdoor pool, computer room, indoor track, 2 fitness rooms, 2 gymnasiums, a baseball field, cardio room, rooftop sun deck, volleyball court, soccer field, indoor basketball courts, bocce courts, handball courts, and lots more. All of this for under $150 a year. Not bad considering the prices of a gym membership around the city. Note the Keith Haring mural on the outdoor pool. This is not a fake. There's plenty of fakes around the city, but this one's for real. This mural is the real deal, painted by Haring before his death, and it is maintained by the city. Beautiful Sunday afternoon in the tree-lined streets of the West Village. But be careful. Without me as your guide, you just might get lost. And here we have PS 95 in the West Village. It's the front courtyard, and it looks like creativity is being explored here. The West Village has lots of ethnic restaurants, and this is Casa. It's a nice neighborhood restaurant serving up some authentic, regional Brazilian home cooking. This is James J. Walker Park in the West Village. It's very large considering the size of the tiny neighborhood, but I guess more green space is given to those areas with more residential inhabitants than commercial buildings. And here we have Hudson Bagels. It's difficult to make New Yorkers wait for anything. Those must be really good bagels. This is the Hudson Park branch of the New York Public Library. The New York Public Library has several branches in Manhattan. The Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Queens each have their own library systems. Every neighborhood has them, little patches of land in odd places, usually created by an unusual intersection or some other easement. These spots are filled with concrete or usually left to grow wild. New York City has a program called Green Streets, which turns these spots throughout the city into mini parks, and I mean mini. The program is run by the New York City Parks Department, New York City Department of Transportation, and the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Imagine that, 3 huge bureaucracies coming together and implementing a successful plan. This is the Cherry Lane Theater. CLT is New York City's oldest continuously running off-Broadway theater. The building, located on 38 Commerce Street, was built in 1817 as a farm silo and also served as a tobacco warehouse and box factory. The Playhouse opened in 1924 with the theatrical presentation of Saturday Night. And here we have the Church of St. Luke's Garden. It's simply beautiful, one of the most peaceful gardens I know of in the city. The garden is also the location of what has become New York City's best Easter egg hunt. The garden is simply amazing, with little nooks and crannies. Every turn brings a new surprise. A feeling of tranquility comes over you as soon as you enter the garden and goes stronger as you walk through it. I think if everyone in the world could spend 15 minutes a day here, the world would be a much nicer place. There's lots of birds, squirrels, and butterflies, and there's quite a few people here as well. But the layout of the garden makes it seem like it's just you along with nature. There always seems to be an empty bench nearby calling your name. The actual church, also known as St. Luke's, is an Episcopal church. Their mission states that they reflect the variety of peoples in our world. Different genders, sexual orientations, all forms of families, all abilities and special needs, in every socio-economic grouping, and from many cultures. The group has been at this location since 1821. 111th 8th Avenue is the former Port Authority building. It's one of the largest buildings in the city. Not that tall, but it's one building that knows how to spread out. At 3 million square feet, the Empire State Building is 2 million square feet, this structure is like a huge beached red brick cruise ship in the middle of the West Village. It takes about 20 minutes to walk around the structure at a fast pace. It has a helicopter landing pad on the roof, and several elevators that can lift completely loaded 18-wheeled tractor trailers. The Port Authority has long moved to Midtown, and the building is now owned and occupied by another company. I'm not really sure who the new company is. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a place on the internet to go when you're trying to find something out about something? All kidding aside, Google recently bought this huge structure for about $2 billion, and it looks like they're digging the New York City scene. Not only were they looking for a sizable building in New York City, but they knew underneath the building was buried treasure. Deep below 111th 8th Avenue is one of the largest and busiest fiber optic cables on the East Coast, if not the entire U.S. The fact that the Hudson Street 9th Avenue fiber highway is directly under this building has also attracted such tenants as Verizon, Sprint, and other telecommunication businesses. Google, of course, is taking full advantage of what they're sitting on, literally. And if you're not sure what a fiber optic cable is, well, again, I'm sure there's some way on the internet you can find out what it is. Hey, there he is! Scooters are everywhere in Manhattan, especially downtown, and for good reason. They're cheap to run and maintain, they're very easy to park, and they scream, hey, I'm hip and cool. They really do. And the subway will get you anywhere, but a scooter makes the trip a whole lot more fun. One thing to consider, however, is you're taking your life into your hands considering the crazy streets of Manhattan. This is Bleecker Playground. The park was built in 1966. It was named after Anthony Bleecker, who, in 1809, allowed the city to run several streets through his large farm. Bleecker Street, named after Anthony as well, is one of those streets. Some street art on the stairs of a West Village home. Every once in a while, as you walk around New York City, you come across a building or some other structure that just seems out of place. Here's a good example in the West Village. White Horse Tavern has a rich history. The bar opened in 1880 to a clientele that was mostly longshoremen. In the 1950s and 1960s, it became known for its bohemian culture, a gathering place for writers and artists. Some of its regulars included Dylan Thomas, Bob Dylan, Norman Mailer, Jim Morrison, and others. The song Those Were the Days, which was a song by Mary Hopkins in 1972, has the opening line, "Once upon a time there was a tavern." That tavern would be the White Horse. Jackson Square is one of Manhattan's older parks. It's triangular shaped and was built right before Manhattan switched its streets to a grid system. As odd as it seems, due to lack of records, no one knows who Jackson Square is named after. The Parks Department just assumes it was probably named after U.S. President Andrew Jackson. This is a CVS pharmacy in the West Village. Quite a building for a neighborhood pharmacy. Actually, the building was built in 1897 for the New York Savings Bank. Following a financial panic in 1893, banks wanted to build buildings that appeared solid, simple, and safe-looking. The building was empty from the 1960s to the 1980s and fell into disrepair. Since then, several retailers, including Central Carpet and Balducci's, a high-end gourmet shop, have occupied the location. As a landmark building, the city has placed very strict restrictions on prospective occupants, and most have balked at the meeting of those restrictions. In 2010, architects, New York City, and CVS came up with a plan to turn this striking white marble temple-like building into a CVS pharmacy. Well done. This is the New York County National Bank building, not to be outdone by the classical white marble New York Savings Bank building across the street, which is now the CVS. New York County National Bank built their neoclassical temple-like building on the same intersection. The architectural firm of De Lamons and Cordes was hired to build this structure right after they completed the new Macy's building on 34th Street. The building is simply beautiful and has so many details I wouldn't know where to begin. Parking anywhere in Manhattan is very expensive. I mean, you're on a tiny island with millions of people. Street parking is almost unheard of, and this business has taken ramifications to the extreme. I don't think the threat is legal, and besides, I was always taught two wrongs don't make a right. One thing is clear. If you're going to visit Manhattan, leave the car at home. This is Olio y Puy, perhaps one of the prettiest sidewalk cafes I've seen in a while, with a beautiful interior to boot. They have a huge family-built wood-burning oven that cranks out Neapolitan pizzas, breads, and other Italian staples. No matter where you walk in New York City, indoors or outdoors, you're being watched. It's the price to pay for being in a city considered to be a prime target by many throughout the world who are up to no good. Years ago, people on the street were concerned about scam artists and pickpockets. New Yorkers have learned that petty crime is just that, and that the New York Police Department and Homeland Security has much bigger fish to fry. What a shame, but I'll tip my hat to the unparalleled security system, of which security cameras are just a part of, this city has developed. Almost every street in New York City has a small shop selling fresh-cut flowers. There always seems to be a great variety, and the prices aren't bad because they can be seen, well, almost on every street. This is the Wine Hut. They're serving up a small but extensive selection of wines from around the world. Weekends tend to bring out the biker in many people, and New York City is no exception. City bikers tend to ride in large groups. Today was an extremely large group with well over 100 heading south on the West Side Highway. The very noisy cavalcade was well over a mile long, and you could see the last few dozen in these photos, and took close to 5 minutes to pass. NYPD is quick to escort biker gangs when they assemble and usually have patrol cars lead and follow the group with NYPD motorcycles in the middle. This is not something the police department organizes ahead of time with the bikers who pretty much show up unannounced. It's done on the fly. It seems that the police department tries to keep motorcycle traffic separate from other vehicular traffic and pedestrians. Notice no cars, buses, trucks, or pedestrians on the road like the northbound side. On a side note, did you know the last biker in an assembled gang, much like this one, is called the sweep? It's usually an experienced biker who assures the gang, pedestrians, and traffic remain safe during the ride, much like the police do. Originally a courthouse, the Jefferson Market Library, part of the New York library system, has served the village area for over 40 years. The Victorian Gothic building is a New York City landmark built between 1875 and 1877 at a cost to the city of $360,000. What a bargain. What the city got in return is an architectural gem that was voted one of the 10 most beautiful buildings in America by a poll of architects in 1880. And here's some interior shots of the Jefferson Market Library. It's a beautiful landmark building. The Jefferson Market Library has a Tiles for America exhibit. After the attacks on 9/11, children from around the world created Get Well cards in the form of tiles. These hand-painted tiles were attached to a fence right by Jefferson Market Library and across the street from St. Vincent's Hospital, where many of the injured were recovering. Some of the tiles read, "Peace," "Imagine," "God Bless America," "Canada Loves You," "Be Strong." Pictures include the American flag, the Twin Towers, peace signs, and lots of hearts. It's exhibits like this one that puts a smile on your face and a tear in your eye. There is no doubt the gay community has dug its roots into the West Village area over the past few decades. While the community thrives all over New York City, it's the Village, and in particular the West Village, that is home to a community that has a huge cultural and economical impact not only on the local neighborhood, but the city in general. I had to find out why these people were gathering at the intersection of Christopher and Gay Streets. After asking someone, I realized the answer was simple. It's a free Wi-Fi hotspot. In the past few years, same-sex marriage has gotten a positive nod and become legal across most of the USA. I came across this marriage on a beautiful Sunday afternoon in a great setting, Jefferson Market Garden, in the West Village. Congratulations and best of luck. Located on Christopher Street in the West Village, the Stonewall Inn is ground zero for the beginning of the gay pride movement. The inn has a fascinating history, and the Stonewall riots are legendary. I suggest you Google it to find out more. This is Bleecker Street Pizza. Lots of hype about this place. All of the signage and website hoopla states that it's the best pizza in New York City. The place has gotten rave endorsements from the likes of the New York Times, Jimmy Kimmel Show, Food Network, the New York Post, and tons of radio stations. I ordered a slice of pepperoni and sausage. It was good, a 5 on my 1 to 10 scale, so I don't get all the hoopla, but you know what? I'm going back. I'll always give an establishment a second chance. Back in Hudson River Park, these two pieces are next to each other in the park on a lawn directly across from the Hudson River. They're mobile-like in that they move and shimmer in the wind. On a sunny day, they really attract your attention. Here we have a playground in Hudson River Park in the West Village. Check out the young girl using the park's water feature. That's one happy child. You want a New Yorker's attention? You have to do it with character, not status. There's over 25 people in this photo taken on Christopher Street. Only 1 or 2 are looking at the slow-moving, engine-growling Ferrari. This is Pop Bar in the West Village. Gelato on a stick. If you want, they'll dip it in a topping of your choice. Kind of like Good Humor Goes Italiano. I had the pistachio pop gelato dipped in a chopped pistachio and dark chocolate. There's a picture of it under decadent in the dictionary. Usually, a public works project is named after a government official, politician, local hero, or someone of historical interest. The Holland Tunnel, however, was named after Clifford Milburn Holland, the chief engineer of the project, who died in 1924, 3 years before the project was completed. The tunnel was designated a National Historic, Civil, and Mechanical Engineering Landmark in 1982. Some people have a flooding phobia about using Trans-Hudson tunnels. The fact is, these tunnels are carved through bedrock under the Hudson and never come near the water. Eastbound traffic into Manhattan is restricted, no commercial vehicles allowed since 9/11. There's fewer restrictions placed on westbound traffic. Sorry, New Jersey. Manhattan has lots of quiet zones. Cross streets, parks, and squares are normally quiet. Subways, uptown, downtown streets, and commercial areas are usually noisy. It's a huge city and most people get the where to be quiet thing. But again, I guess some people need to be reminded. Amy's Bread has become quite popular in the past few years. This is one of several locations in Manhattan. All are always busy. This one's on Bleecker Street in the West Village. The IFC Center is another independent film venue. This one has the distinction of being the former landmark Waverly Theater. The IFC Center even has Waverly Midnights on Friday and Saturday. Other features include weekend classics, short attention span cinema, which is right up my alley, vintage movie posters from around the globe day, organic popcorn with real butter, and it's just a great rainy day off destination. I've probably mentioned Papaya Dog in a couple of my other videos, but I really love Papaya Dog, and no one's paying me to say that. If you're looking for a quick, cheap bite on the run, note the word healthy wasn't mentioned, this is the place for you. Lots of specials, including a 2-dog and drink special for $5. The dogs, which are Sabrett Natural Casing all beef, are grilled, not boiled, just the way I like them. There's an extensive short order menu. The fruit drinks are a specialty, including orange, grape, mango, and of course papaya, and just a few standing-only tables, but you'll always find elbow room that you need. The place is spotless. All of the papaya dogs are spotless. Most people simply take their food out to the street. Personally, I think New York City needs a few more papaya dog locations. This is the Northern Dispensary in the West Village. The building is quite unique. Triangular in shape, it sits on what one would consider prime real estate. A townhouse down the block just sold for $11.5 million. The building, however, has sat empty for several decades. It sits empty because of an extraordinary number of deed restrictions on its use. Restrictions were placed on the building well over 100 years ago. It can only be used to serve people who are poor and infirm. This might tangle the plan of any condominium developer. And the last occupant was a dentistry practice in the 1980s that refused to work on patients with AIDS. The practice was sued and went out of business. The building was purchased by the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of New York and sold for $760,000. That's really a good price, even back in 1998. But remember, the building comes with huge restrictions. So here it sits, empty, just waiting for that golden city government loophole that no one has found yet. Until then, if the current owner needs someone to occupy and, care for the building for several more decades until things are ironed out, please leave a comment below. Thanks. This is Tao, and it's all about Asian fare here. It's a little pricey, but the menu and decor are first class. This is Winston Churchill Square. This garden and sitting area is named after British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. His official residence, located at 10 Downing Street in London, shares the same name as the street this park is located. The park also is known as Downing Street Playground. And here we have the New York City Fire Museum in the West Village. One of the nation's most prominent collections of fire-related art, artifacts, gear, and apparatus from the late 18th century to the present. All over New York City, you'll find street vendors selling what New Yorkers would call faguchis, or fake designer stuff. But the street vendors in the West Village are not your typical flea market items. These vendors have some really nice, unusual things. And here we have Murray's Cheeses in the West Village. Cheeses from around the world. Name a cheese, and this place will have it in stock, and it will be fresh. Murray's is not only a world-class cheese shop, they also have a full line of delicatessen and bakery items. And here we have a monument of Juan Pablo Duarte, who was the liberator of the Dominican Republic. The memorial was donated to the city by the Dominican Republic, and it's one of 6 monuments to Latin American leaders that overlook Avenue of the Americas, also known as 6th Avenue. And here we have what some might call an abandoned pier, but the pier seems to be used by the city for storage and winter weather equipment. The cement barricade at its edge has been painted by someone who thought a little artwork might make this pier somewhat prettier. The colors and marine life do make it seem a little more Manhattan-worthy. This is the Corporal John A. Cervalli Playground in the West Village. It was dedicated in 1968. Many might ask, who is or who was John A. Cervalli? He wasn't a politician, or rich, or famous. He was just a local West Village boy who died a man and a hero in Vietnam. Perhaps the most special park dedication of all. 1 Jackson Square is a stunning building overlooking Jackson Square. 30 condo units, all within walking distance to the Village, West Village, Soho, and the Meatpacking District. According to the website, 2 units are still up for sale right now if you want to drop a few million. Hey, relax, you're in the West Village. Hudson River Park. 2 bicyclists relaxing and heading uptown. This is Father Demo Square in the West Village. Father Demo was born in Italy, immigrated to Boston, and arrived in New York City in 1900 to become an assistant pastor. He raised enormous funds for local charities in the village area. In Italy, Father Demo Square would be called a piazza, an open space surrounded by buildings and a gathering place for its community. The Lucille Lortel Theater on Christopher Street in the West Village was an anniversary gift to the theater actress Ms. Lortel from her husband in 1955. The first play to be performed here was Three Penny Opera, which ran for 7 years and won a Tony Award for Best Off-Broadway Show, putting Off-Broadway on the map. The theater's sidewalk has stars recognizing great playwrights such as Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, Eugene O'Neill, Norman Mailer, and many, many more. Back at Hudson River Park in the West Village, the end of this pier is shaped like the bow of a ship, complete with mast and scopes. Grom is a West Village high-end gelato, sorbet, shakes, and hot chocolate shop. A quote from their website says, "If I could live my life again, I would eat more gelato and less lima beans." Here we have the Golden Swan Garden. The Golden Swan was the name of a bar that stood at this location over 100 years ago. The bar was also known as the Hell Hole and was frequented by playwright Eugene O'Neill. The bar was torn down in 1928 to make room for the 6th Avenue subway. The park that now stands here features beautiful pathways with trees such as dogwood, spruce, redwood, and magnolias. The park also features very popular handball courts. This is New York Fire Department Engine 24 Ladder 5 in the West Village. These plaques are on every firehouse in the downtown area with different names at each location. Never forget. On a brighter note, we have Caliente Cab Company, homemade salsas and hand-pressed tortillas. Fresh Mexican fare known for its tequila bar. I'm okay with one margarita as long as it's as large as the one hanging off the building. And here we have the Waverly Restaurant, another iconic eatery or diner. It's open 24 hours, and what really isn't in Manhattan? An old-fashioned and not determined to be chic or the new spot, it's packed with locals, not tourists, and has high praise on most internet restaurant rating sites. New York Magazine recommends the Munster cheese omelet at $7.45. The magazine's readers rated the food, service, and decor each at a 10. I found this cool bike shop right off the Hudson River in the West Village. Rent, buy, or repair right in the alleyway. If you forget your helmet, New York Police Department will quickly remind you. New York City is known for some pretty horrific bike accidents. This is Boots and Saddle Bar in the West Village on Christopher Street. A Boots and Saddle Bar in Houston or Dallas, Texas is one thing. On Christopher Street in the West Village, it takes on a whole different vibe. Here we have the Christopher Street Sheridan Square subway station. Like many places in New York, if you don't stop to find the roses, you'll never have the chance to smell them. At first glance, this Christopher Street station, which is close to NYU, looks like any other in the city, and everyone's waiting for the next train, and they do so by facing the tracks. If they turned around, however, they would notice several works of art worthy of a museum. Check out the mosaic artwork in the station's namesake, as well as the border running the length of the station. Also notice the detail in the scenes portrayed within the border. Above is a castle, and their individual uniquely shaped pieces. Unlike today, these tiny tiles didn't come by the sheet. They were individually laid decades ago. Also at the station are mosaic artworks created by students from PS 41 and their art teacher Deborah Lewis in 1994. The works were commissioned by the MTA New York City Transit. Looks like Miss Lewis has some pretty creative students on her hands. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click on that little bell in the corner to be notified of new videos as they become available.